Tom moves. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes, December 11th, 2018. Glenn moves. Discussion, questions? All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to development permit applications, looking at file DP 2018-138, a variance request for an addition to a legal non-conforming garage. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, MPC. I'm going to be presenting DP 2018-138. The purpose of this application is to obtain a development permit for an addition to a legal non-conforming garage with a side yard setback variance. It's located in Cluny, so I'll just pull up that map for you. Just right there, and then you can see on the aerial photo there the actual addition to the garage. So staff is recommending for this application that MPC choose option 1 to approve DP 2018-138, an addition to the legal non-conforming garage with a variance to the side yard setback, subject to the conditions noted in Appendix A of the development permit report. So the county's assessors brought the completed garage addition to the development officer's attention in fall of 2018, and so staff began enforcement at that time. It's believed the addition was completed in about 2015. The original garage was permitted in 1988 and is now considered legal non-conforming as it doesn't meet the current land use bylaw side yard setbacks. According to section 1.5 of the county's land use bylaw, non-conforming building and uses will be governed in accordance with section 643 of the Municipal Government Act, which reads, a non-conforming building may continue to be used, but the building may not be enlarged, added to, rebuilt, or structurally altered except to make it a conforming building for routine maintenance of the building if the development authority considers it necessary, or in accordance with the land use bylaw that provides minor variance powers to the development authority for the purpose of this selection, or of this section rather. According to the real property report from 1992, the original garage is 3.57 feet from the side yard. The current land use bylaw's minimum setback from the side yard in Hamlet Residential General District is 4 feet. The landowner was unable to provide an updated RPR, and so staff calculated the garage addition to be set back approximately 3.18 feet from the side yard property line. Staff circulated the application to adjacent landowners and internally. Fire services had no concerns, neither did community services, and no comments were received from adjacent landowners. So the land use bylaw requirements for non-conforming buildings and uses just state that non-conforming building and uses will be governed in accordance with section 643 of the Act, as previously stated. The Development Authority, the Municipal Planning Commission, with respect to all development permit applications for discretionary uses and all applications for permitted uses which involve a variance request in excess of 10% of the relevant numerical value with all land use districts, with the exception of direct control districts, unless otherwise specified within the DCD and any other application referred to it by the development officer. In regards to variances, upon receipt of an application for any development for which a variance exceeds 10% of any numerical rules and regulations of this bylaw, the development officer shall refer the application to the MPC for a decision. The development authority may approve a DP even though the proposed development does not comply with this bylaw or is non-conforming building, if in the opinion of the development authority, the proposed development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of this neighborhood or material interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and the proposed development conforms with a similar use prescribed for that land or building in this bylaw. Staff is recommending that MPC choose to recommend this development, though there are 3 options. Let me just pull them up here. Oh, sorry. To approve, to refuse the application with reasons given, or to provide an alternate recommendation. And the Appendix A for approval includes that the development permit is issued solely for the 29 by 30 foot extension up to the legal non-conforming garage, that a variance has been granted to allow the garage addition to be 0.97 meters from the side yard property line, that the development shall proceed according to the Hamlet Residential General District requirements, and the applicant must comply with all applicable provisions of the Wheatland County Land Use Bylaw, and that no permanent development shall occur on or over any utility right-of-way easement. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion?
I'll move that MPC choose option 1 to approve DP 2018-138 in addition to legal non-conforming garage with a variance to the side yard setback subject to the conditions noted in Appendix A of the development permit report.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, discussion? Tom?
Okay, I got out of bed on the wrong side today. So this is what is wrong with government. We have a guy that
All right.
approximately 125 feet from his nearest neighbor. Garage has been there for 4 years. And now we find out, we estimate that he's 8 inches encroaching on an arbitrary line that we set. It's not like he's on the other person's line. In the city of Calgary, he would have been fine because they're allowed 2 feet. We have not done, I don't know how we fix this, but we have not made any friends here. We have not made the county isn't going to join, isn't going to make, oh, whoever had to do this. Not going to make them any happier. The neighbors weren't complaining. I don't know what we do, but we have to figure out a way to do something like this. We're wasting our time. We're losing money, and we're causing a ratepayer to jump through a hoop that he shouldn't have to jump through. I don't know what this solution is. I honestly thought about this, and I'm thinking I should vote against this. Maybe I can convince you guys to vote against it. Then the schlub can go to the planning board, the appeal board, and maybe they'll find him and not agree with and agree with us, and maybe we can make him move his garage. I mean, we're out there making enemies when there's no need to do this. This is a make-work project. We were just talking about employment and work, and this is a make-work project, and it shouldn't even come before us. That's it. I'm done.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, and I think that would be something great to talk about at like committee of the whole meeting or something like that. But for this venue right now, unfortunately, we are bound by certain procedures. So there is a motion on the floor.
Just another question.
Yeah.
Did the landowner come to get a site, like, did he want it brought up to date, or did we find him out of? Yeah. Or did we go to him and say you need a variance?
We found that he hadn't applied for a development permit for the,
Oh, so the gremlins were out again.
I believe it was from the presentation was through a tax assessed. Is that where it came from? Mike?
I just always thought we only operated on complaints, is what I've been told the last year. But
Any further discussion?
My understanding is when he applied for the development permit, that's when it showed up. And it didn't meet our requirements, so he had to go through the hoops to make it meet the requirements. It's not an issue.
The addition was already built. We found that he had built it without applying for a development permit, and we requested he obtain one.
Clarify about the complaints too. I just wanted to clarify that complaints can come from staff, council, or a ratepayer. So, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. With that being said, I'll call a vote for the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to file number DP 2018-159, the proposal home-based business type 3, raw dog food processing and signage on an existing building of the business. Whenever you're ready. Oh, we have some information.
Okay. Good morning. So I just have Megan handing out a letter. This is from the applicant. Because it was submitted after the application was submitted to us and the report was done, it was going through the FOIP process, so you will notice that the name has been removed. But the applicant is not here today, and they wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to speak to their application while still maintaining the new policy that we have that doesn't allow them to come up. So they've just reiterated their intents for this application, what they hope to achieve through it, just for further clarification for MPC. So this is DP 2018-159. It's for a home-based business type 3 for raw dog food processing in an existing farm building with a 10-foot by 4-foot signage on the structure for advertising. Recommendation from staff is to approve DP 2018-159 for home-based business type 3 defined as raw dog food processing and the 10-foot by 4-foot sign on the building proposed to contain the processing. So this is just a location map showing it where it is within the county. It is south of the Highway 1 and it is within the West Highway 1 area structure plan. The intent of the HBB Type 3 application is for processing of raw pork and mutton, which is to be supplied from the landowner's own animals. The product is intended strictly for animal consumption and sale to dog owners who would feed it to their pets. It is not intended for sale for human consumption. The product is intended to be prepared with an existing accessory structure on the titled lands and sold from the property by appointment. Advertising is proposed through online and outdoor signage on the farm building housing the processing. The product is proposed to be made available 3 days a week through appointments only, with a maximum 5 visits per month proposed. 2 employees are proposed for the business. Both are residents of the titled land. So in looking at this application, I examined land use bylaw section 8.12 for home-based type 3, as well as section 9.1 for the agricultural general district, as well as the West Highway 1 area structure plan section 2.5C. With regards to home-based business type 3, it is the maximum level of home base that you can go into with the land use bylaw, this being that it's outside of the home, it's in an accessory structure, and that's why it's been defined as home-based type 3. If it was within the house, it could have been downgraded, but unfortunately they wanted to process it outside of the house. The agricultural general district does allow for home-based type 3, and because it is a discretionary use, it is coming to MPC for a decision. In addition, the West Highway 1 area structure plan was also examined, being that within the ASP, it does still support home-based type businesses as part of the agricultural components within the existing area structure plan. No new development is required for this, so it's using existing buildings. So as per that particular document, this application and the intended use will comply with it. In addition, I did circulation, both internally and externally to specific agencies just because of the food processing requirements, as well as Highway 1 because of Alberta's transportation's jurisdiction there. So from development internally, they wanted to ensure the bed and breakfast business, which was previously permitted as a secondary use business, was no longer operational. And I was able to talk with the landowner and they confirmed that it's no longer in use. And so this would be the only home-based or secondary business within the property. So I circulated to Alberta Health Services and they basically stated that they had no concerns. They recommended that I get in touch with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency as well as the Alberta Agriculture Department. I got in touch with both of them and they basically said that because it's not for human consumption, they have no concerns. So at this point, there are no further regulations or requirements from those departments, rather that they just maintain the general Alberta Health Services requirements for sanitation. So those are going to be as notes as part of this DP. Alberta Transportation requested that a roadside permit application be submitted. So again, this is the provincial jurisdiction, so it is a note that the landowner is required to obtain that permit. And once they have obtained it, if approval is granted, they have met that. If they have not been given approval for whatever reason, the development permit will then be in question, as they are required to meet those provincial regulations. The last conversations I had with them, they have submitted it, and it is on its way to Alberta Transportation for review. So once they receive any confirmation or documents from them, I'll be filing it in our land file and ensure that it meets their requirements. And again, because this is a discretionary use, it was circulated to neighbors within 1.5 kilometers, and no letters were received in support or objection of this application. In conclusion, the HDB Type 3 aligns with the land use bylaw and the West Highway 1 area structure plan, policies, purposes, and intents. The intensity of the proposed business will be minimal with the existing structure and the parcel where residential and agricultural operations already exist. Minimal disturbance to the neighboring properties will be incurred, as the processing will be kept within the confines of the building and the visitors to the property maintained by the applicant. If more traffic is to be expected and/or increases over time, the DP may be required to be revised to accommodate the increased number of site visits as if deemed necessary by the development authority, and further permit revisions and applications to Alberta Transportation may be required as well. So to give some context, this is the site property. The building highlighted in red is where they're intending to do the processing, and then the signage would just be on the north-facing wall of that structure. Now, I was sent a copy of the signage, but I'm pretty sure I have a copy of it in the file. If you would like to see what it looks like, I can bring that up. I'm pretty sure I have it. If not, I can always run over and print it out quickly if MPC would like to see it. Otherwise, MPC has 3 options. Option 1 is to approve DP 2018-159 for a home-based type business type 3, as well as a 10-foot by 4-foot sign. Option 2 is to refuse the application with reasons given, and option 3 is to provide an alternative recommendation of MPC's choosing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
I'll move that MPC approve DP 28-159 for a home-based business type 3, including sign.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, discussion on the motion? No? Seeing none, call the vote for the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Was he small votes? We'll move on to file number DP 2018-161, proposal home-based business type 2 for eyelash extensions.
I need this, baby.
We need more than eyelash.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
So this application, yes, is for eyelash extensions on HBB2. The recommendation that staff has is that MPC choose option 1 to approve DP 2018-161, a home-based business type 2 for eyelash extension business, subject to conditions in Appendix A of the development permit report, which I will outline for you. So this is located within the hamlet of Carsland at Plan 7711065, Block 11, Lot 23, and it is zoned hamlet residential. The proposal is to operate a business within the existing single-family dwelling, which will offer false eyelash extensions. There will be no outside storage of equipment. The business will utilize tweezers, false eyelashes, adhesive, LED light, and eye cleaner. There will be no noise, odor, or other types of nuisance associated with the business. The applicant resides within the home and will be the only employee. There will be no deliveries to the site and no signage located on the property. Customer visits are predicted to be 2 customers per day, with customer parking to be located on the street in front of the residence. on the parking pad accessed via the back alley or during summer months in the parking pad adjacent to the dwelling. Appointments will be scheduled between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Wednesday and Thursday. The proposed location is bordered by residential development on all sides. The application is for a home-based business type 2, which is discretionary in the Hamlet Residential General District. MPC is the development authority for all development permit decisions on discretionary uses. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, staff is confident that our documents all align with that plan. The CMRB, the location of the subject property falls outside of the CMRB area. The RGMS does mention that we should include strategies for the creation of sustainable communities, and that would include balancing environmental, economic, social, and cultural aspects. So this would align with the economic aspect. The MDP, this does align with MDP, which outlines objectives for commercial and industrial development. It supports growth and diversification of employment opportunities and developments which facilitate employment for residents within close proximity to their places of residence. It does align with the HBB 2 section of the land use bylaw, meeting that criteria outlined in the chart there. And in a nutshell, HBB 2, the business activities have to occur inside the residential home. The business should not change the external appearance of the residence, buildings, or land. Examples would include, but are not limited to, a hairdresser, massage services, legal services, or accounting. So it fits pretty well in there. Circulation was completed to Alberta Health Services. They had comments regarding compliance with the personal service regulation, the health standards, and guidelines for aesthetics. They would like to review the plans for the facility, requirement of health inspections, and compliance with the Public Health Act, and notification to AHS if any complaints are received. And the full circulation is in Appendix F. Internal file review, there was no concerns. Neighbors had no concerns that I received. So staff are proposing 3 options. Option 1 is to approve DP 2018-161, a home-based business type 2, subject to conditions in Appendix A. Because the requested business proposal fits the intent and purpose of a home-based business as described in the land use bylaw, and that with the stated conditions of approval, the development authority has determined that the business complies with the county's land use bylaw rules and regulations and the MDP plan policies. Option 2 is to refuse the application with reasons, and option 3 is to provide an alternative recommendation. Staff are recommending option 1 to approve the HBB 2. The proposed application aligns with the objectives for community development. The application aligns with the MDP. The application aligns with the intents of the Hamlet Residential General District and HBB 2. And the home-based business does not appear as if it would interfere with existing infrastructure and neighboring properties which are residential in nature. So the conditions, this DP is issued for the purpose of an eyelash extension business defined as an HBB type 2. No variances have been granted. Development shall proceed according to HRG requirements. No permanent development over any utility right-of-way or easement. Business will operate in accordance with application details, letter of intent, and plans or drawings as submitted with the development permit application and acknowledged to be appropriate. Any expansion or intensification of the business beyond the criteria of a HBB2 may require relocation of the business to a district appropriate for the use. Permit to be issued for a 2-year term expiring on January 15th, 2021. So a couple of notes, and it is our standard note that development shall meet all provincial and federal legislation, and I've added including all provisions of Alberta Health Services. I'll just show you the location plan within the hamlet of Carsland. It's outside of the CMRB area. There it is on the street along in Christensen Close. Their parking options, street parking, rear parking pad there, and then the owner drives a school bus, so in the summer, the school bus is not there. So that's another option during the summer. There's the dwelling where the business will take place. That's the rear parking area. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions of staff? Comments, concerns? Motion?
I move that DP 2018-161, a home-based business type 2, be approved with the conditions noted in Appendix A.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Move on to file number DP 2018-162. Proposals a garden suite with variance request and setback from primary residence.
Yes, so the recommendation of staff on this application is that MPC choose option 1 to approve DP 2018-162, a garden suite with variance which would allow the garden suite to remain in the accessory building and be located 40.4 meters or 133 feet from the primary residence, subject to conditions noted in Appendix A of the development permit report, which I will highlight for you. So this is located 5 miles east of Cheadle at Plan 951-1278, Block 1 in the northeast 282325. It's a 4.82 acre country residential parcel. The applicant purchased the property with a residential suite already constructed within the existing shop. The suite was constructed without development and safety code permits. This application has been made to ensure the suite is legal and all applicable permits have been obtained. A variance is required because the existing suite is located 133 feet from the primary residence, and the land use bylaw prescribes a maximum setback of 40 feet between the primary dwelling and a garden suite. The applicant has been in discussions with Superior Safety Codes already and has determined what type of work would be required to bring the suite into compliance with safety codes if this permit is approved. A garden suite is a discretionary use in the country residential district. MPC is the development authority for decisions on discretionary uses and for granting variances greater than 10%. The application is within the CMRB plan area, but it does not meet the criteria for needing a review from the CMRB. The proposed garden suite aligns with Section 3.6.1 of the MDP as it ensures residential developments are planned for the long term and minimize cumulative impacts on the land, as well as ensuring that wheatland residents have access to a range of affordable housing types and a diversity of housing choices to accommodate all stages of life. The land use bylaw, the proposal has a land use designation of country residential, and this application meets all the requirements of the LUB with the exception of those I've highlighted in yellow, which would be the 40-foot setback from the primary residence. This variance is requested to accommodate this garden suite because it has already been constructed in this building. In an upcoming proposed land use bylaw amendment to the garden suite section, staff are proposing that this clause be removed so there would no longer be a maximum distance requirement between the two dwellings. Circulation was conducted to adjacent landowners. No agencies were circulated. We did receive a response in the internal file review from the deputy fire chief, who said that they should ensure that they install both smoke detectors and CO detectors in the living space. It's recommended that a smoke detector be in the bedroom as well as out in the main area, and ideally they should be wired together. This is part of the building code requirements. So 3 options for MPC to consider: that Option 1 is to approve DP 2018-162, a garden suite with a variance. Because the requested variance fits the criteria for a development authority to grant a variance to the regulations of the land use bylaw, and that with the exception of the aforementioned variance with the stated conditions of approval, the development authority has determined that the proposed garden suite complies with the county's land use bylaw and regulations and the municipal development plan policies. Option 2 is to refuse the application with reasons. And option 3 is to provide an alternative recommendation of MPC's choosing. So staff are recommending option 1, that MPC choose to approve option 1, a garden suite with a variance, which would allow the garden suite to remain in the accessory building and be located 133 feet from the primary residence, subject to conditions noted in Appendix A of the development permit report. It does align with the as aligns with the county's MDP. The proposed application aligns with the CR district as per the LUB. The existing uses and garden suite fit within the context of the area, which is primarily residential and agricultural in nature. Allowing the garden suite to remain in the proposed location does not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land. Conditions of in Appendix A is this DP is issued for the purpose of allowing an existing residential suite to remain within an accessory building and be defined as a dwelling garden suite. Variance has been granted allowing the suite to remain 133 feet from the primary residence. Development shall proceed according to country residential requirements. No permanent dwelling shall occur on or over any utility right-of-way or easement. Applicant to ensure approach is developed to county standards. Landowner to acquire a separate rural address sign for the garden suite at their own expense as per the Wheatland County Master Fee Schedule. Couple of notes: construction shall conform to Alberta Safety Code regulations. Applicant to ensure installation of smoke detectors and CO detector, and development shall meet all provincial and federal legislation. The location map, you can see that it is east of Cheadle. This was the circulation area. There's the site plan. So there is the Quonset. That's where the house is located, 133 feet apart. This is within the CMRB area as depicted on this map. Within the property, this is where the Quonset is. This is the house. A close-up, more close view. And these are some photos of the Quonset. And that is everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I'm just going to make another comment because I'm aware of this building. And I'm trying to figure out why we had a county employee on the first deal, on the first variance, bring that to light. And yet that building I know has been rented, has been a living accommodation for at least 15 years, probably 25 years. And our county residents or our county employees would have known that, why that wasn't brought into. What I'm having a problem with here is there seems to be arbitrary decisions on what our county employees are bringing to our light and what they aren't bringing to our light. It's like, I've got no problems with this. It's just that it seems that there's a person out there that is being picked on, and yet that piece of property over there that everybody in the area knows that it's been a rental suite forever and a day, we've just sort of let it go. So I don't know. I think we have to. I know it's not the right point, and we'll probably at a Planning and Priorities Commission should be discussing this. I just want it on the record that I'm really, it really bothers me when it's if we're either going to be tyrannical on how we enforce our laws, or we're going to have to learn how to have some common sense and some discretion on what we do.
Okay, any other discussions? Anyone to put a motion forward?
And having said that, I'll recommend that the MPC approve development permit 2018-162 with stated conditions in the development permit report.
Okay, any questions on the motion? We'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. All righty. We'll move on to file number DP 2018-164, the proposals for a home-based business type 3, a wool processing facility. Whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff are recommending that MPC choose option 1 of this application for the wool processing facility, HBB type 3, for subject to conditions noted in Appendix A of the development permit report. So this property is located on Northeast 12, 2722, a half a mile west of Rosebud. It's a 152.71 acre parcel zoned Ag General. I will summarize the report for you. Proposal is to operate a business within the existing shop and dwelling, which would involve the use of machinery to turn raw wool into yarn and wool roving, which is used for spinning, sewing, trimming, and handiwork. The landowner will process the wool from their own sheep, and clients will supply the wool required for custom processing. Yarn and roving will also be produced for sale to shops throughout Alberta and online through the company website. Processing of the wool may include cleaning, dyeing, tumbling, conditioning, carding, and spinning. The washing and dyeing of the wool will take place within a designated room within the existing dwelling. The dye used will be a citric acid or vinegar-based dye. The business will utilize 2 employees who both reside on the property, with potentially 1 to 2 part-time employees in the future. The noise from the machinery is not expected to carry outside of the building. There's no odor or other known nuisances. There's no outdoor storage of materials or equipment. Raw wool and finished wool product will be stored inside. Anticipated customer visits will be 1 customer per week arriving to either deliver or pick up product. Parking will be located in front of the building, and the business will operate year-round with hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Much of the finished product will be shipped via Canada Post. Deliveries of wool to the site expected to be less than once per week by the customer's personal vehicle. Other incidental supplies will mainly arrive by mail and be picked up at the post office. Finished product will be delivered to Canada Post for shipping once per week. The application is for an HBB type 3, which is a discretionary use in the AG district. MPC is the development authority for decisions on discretionary uses. So the HBB, oh, there we go. This application is located outside of the CMRB plan area. It does align with sections 3.7.1 of the MDP, as it encourages the expansion and diversification of the county's commercial and industrial base, promotes growth and diversification of employment opportunities in designated areas, provides an opportunity for commercial development in close proximity to hamlets, and it facilitates employment for residents within close proximity to their places of residence. It also aligns with the Rosebud ASP. Within this area, the ASP, there's 2 areas in the ASP separated into 2 zones, the Hamlet Established Area and the Hamlet Expansion Area. So this application falls within the Hamlet Expansion Area. And within this area, the ASP encourages the continuation of existing agricultural operations, and the proposed business will operate from a building currently on the existing farm, which will continue operations as before. Section 2.2 of the ASP stresses the need to diversify the local economy and provide support to the local businesses. The small-scale wool processing facility fits within the vision for growth of the local economy, while supporting and adding to the artistic and creative character of the area. The proposal has land use designation of agricultural general and fits within the HBB Type 3, which basically means the secondary use of a dwelling and its accessory buildings by an occupant of the residential dwelling to conduct an activity that will generate daily business-related visits. So it does accommodate an accessory building, that's why it falls into the HBB 3. So this application was circulated to Alberta Health Services, who had no concerns, provided the properties and any development are maintained in accordance with the Alberta Public Health Act, nuisance and general sanitation guideline, and if there's any evidence of complaints or other issues of public health concern identified at any phase, AHS wishes to be notified. Alberta Environment and Parks did not supply a written response to my circulation. However, our Wheatland County Environmental Coordinator did speak with them on the phone regarding the business, and they said that the business sounds like value-added agriculture with a low environmental impact, and the contents of the gray water produced would be in line with what is already produced by a typical household. In a conversation with Environment, they asked if the household allocation would be exceeded, and if not, it seemed to consider the wool washing a household use similar to watering animals, and based on predicted water usage, had no issue from a water usage perspective. The application was circulated to adjacent neighbors within 1 mile, so that included the entire hamlet of Rosebud and then 1 mile on all sides. We had 2 responses in support of the development and 1 response with concerns. All of these responses are in the appendix section, so MPC can let me know if they want them read. They've been FOIP'd, and you can just let me know if you want them read. So options, staff are proposing the following 3 options for Municipal Planning Commission. Option 1, to approve DP 2018-164 and HBB 3 for a wool processing facility subject to conditions in Appendix A. Because with the stated conditions of approval, the Development Authority has determined that the proposed HBB 3 complies with the county's land use bylaw rules and regulations, the Rosebud Area Structure Plan, and the Municipal Development Plan policies. Option 2 is to refuse the application with reasons. Option 3 is to provide an alternative recommendation of MPC's choosing. It is a recommendation of staff that MPC choose option 1 to approve DP 2018-164 because the application aligns with the MDP, the Rosebud ASP. The proposed application aligns with the purposes of Ag General District as per the LUB. The existing uses and proposed home-based business type 3 fit within the context of the area, which is primarily residential, agricultural, and commercial in nature. Negative impacts such as escape of livestock related to the business onto neighboring property would be a breach of the conditions of the development permit. A home-based business is a temporary permit which may be reevaluated at the end of its 2-year term. So the proposed conditions are that the development permit is issued for the purpose of a wool processing facility defined as a home-based business type 3. No variances have been granted. Development shall proceed according to Ag General District requirements. No permanent development shall occur on or over any utility right-of-way or easement. Applicant to ensure approaches developed to county standards. Any expansion or intensification of the business beyond the criteria of an HBB3 may require reapplication to an alternate use or relocation of the business to an area more appropriate for the use. No nuisance related to the business will occur beyond the boundaries of the parcel subject to this permit, including the escape of livestock, which may be used for supply of raw wool for the wool processing facility. The permit is to be issued for a 2-year term expiring on January 15th, 2021. And just the notes was that the construction shall conform to safety code regulations, shall meet provincial and federal legislation, including all provisions of Alberta Environment and Parks and Alberta Health Services. Location plan, so it's on this quarter section just west of Rosebud. That's the circulation area. That's the applicant's site plan, so there is the existing Quonset, and that's their dwelling. An aerial photo of the site. Just a further out view. Outside of the CMRB area, this is the area structure plan area, with including the expansion area. That is the existing shop on the property where they would like to house the business, most of the business activities. This is just some examples of the type of equipment that would be in the building. So the tumbler, a picker, a spinner plier. And these are all the responses to the circulation. So MPC, oh, there is just one missing. Were you guys able to see the one? Okay, okay. So that's everything I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Question to MPC, does anybody want these letters read aloud? Or are we clear with what's there? Okay. Any questions of staff?
Through the chair, though, I'd like to make one comment that the last letter in our package really doesn't have anything to do with the application, but I was wondering if the applicant realized that there is a provincial fence line act that he might want to look into. Might help him out a little bit.
I'd agree with you too, and also a lot of that, from what I read, is bylaw issues as well, so. Any other discussion? Motion.
Hot? Yeah, that condition number 7, same comment, the fence line and keeping your livestock in your own parcel. Yeah, I don't know if it's relevant to this or not. I think that's a different issue. And when you really read it, does it mean you can only use wool from the sheep that are on your parcel in the processing plant? You can't bring in different wool? Or you can't take your sheep and move them to a different pasture, has to stay on the parcel? I think that's a vague condition. And I don't think it's relevant. I think there are other avenues to go about keeping livestock on your property, or keeping them out of your property if you don't want them there. So I'm really struggling with this. If I would just like to remove that number 7, because it is covered in other articles, and it would because conceivably you can have a wool processing shop without sheep on your property, but when I read that, it's maybe not. So I'll move for a 2-year term, DP 2018-164, and I would like to remove condition number 7, just because there's other avenues to, it makes it clear.
I don't think it's condition 7 that you're thinking of. It must be condition 6.
Yeah, it's number 7.
Are you,
Says need 164.
do you
yeah.
guys have a different, you guys must have a different than what I have here.
Our number 7 reads, no nuisance related to the business shall occur beyond the boundaries of the parcel subject to this permit, including the escape of livestock, which may be used for supply of raw wool for the wool
Yeah,
processing facility.
I think that we have 2 different things here. I'm just going to bring this one up. Oh, that's not it. In here.
Page
66.
66 in ours.
Here.
Yeah, well, I guess owners.
Where am I? Okay, there, 66.
Through the chair, question to Glenn on that number 7, rather than removing it all. Because most of our development permits, there
I can
does
get
have
it to
something
do
in
it.
them about the business should not create a nuisance to the neighbors. So if you left in that no nuisance related to the business will occur beyond the boundaries of the parcel, and leave it at that. Yeah, and take the rest out, that it still says that your business is okay, but you can't
This
cause a
isn't it.
nuisance, and if the nuisance is this, then there's ways that the landowner can deal with it.
So for clarification, then number 7 would read, no nuisance related to the business shall
We'll
occur
have
beyond
to
the boundaries
figure it
of the parcel. Period. And the rest would be stricken.
But their number 7 is totally different than our number 7.
What you're looking at was what I intended. That's what I intended, so if you guys.
I think that would cover all the concerns. I agree. Okay. Everybody's clear? Motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. We'll move on to subdivision applications. File number, or 3.1, file number SD 2018-22. Proposal to subdivide 1 plus or minus 4 acre parcel from the titled area.
Okay, so this is a subdivision application to subdivide approximately 4.6 acres from the titled land. It's located on Block 1, Lot 1, Plan 061-0215, adjacent to Township Road 244 and approximately 10.8 kilometers northeast of the town of Strathmore. Staff is recommending that MPC choose option 1 to approve subdivision SD 2018-022 with the conditions noted in Appendix A of the planning report. So the parcel proposed for subdivision was previously redesignated to country residential on September 18th, 2018. And this is the subsequent application to subdivide out those same lands for a new title. The parent parcel, which this is proposed to be taken out of, was previously subdivided in 2006 from the larger quarter section. This proposed subdivision is naturally fragmented from the remainder of the parcel by Barnett Lake. So I'm going to go and scroll down to the image just to provide some context. So this is the location map. It's also just northeast as well of the county office, just a short drive away. So this is the tentative plan that was submitted. So as you can see, the lake itself comprises a good chunk of Lot 1, Block 1 here, and the subdivision is proposing to take out the corner section here, which is already separated from the quarter as well as naturally fragmented through the lake. And so the property, the subdivision boundary is following generally the existing parcel shape created by this fragmentation. So in looking at this application, staff looked at the CMRB. It is not within the CMRB plan area, therefore no requirements for circulation to that board is required. South Saskatchewan Regional Plan was examined, and overall it meets the requirements for agricultural practices and diversification through the provisions of provisions to ensure they are protected and maintained through policies and frameworks at the municipal level for agriculture. Now, this is already zoned country residential. However, the remnant parcel is also important to take a look at because it is currently operating as an agricultural piece. This subdivision will not impact that, as it will be separated from it, as it is already titled separately and used separately by a different landowner. Further to that, looking at the environmental components, the parcel itself is not intending to go all the way to the shoreline. It is staying 30 meters back with the proposed boundary to ensure that sufficient setbacks are required. So with that being said, any development that does occur on the property will not only be 30 meters from the shoreline because of the property line, but will have to be set back further because of the boundaries, because of the setback requirements from property lines. So it'll be more than sufficient to meet any of the minimum standards that Alberta Environment requires for setbacks for development against water bodies and natural areas. The RGMS was also examined as per the subdivision and meets the general goals and objectives of the document. As previously mentioned, it is no longer an agriculturally zoned parcel, although this country residential parcel does allow for some smaller scale agricultural uses and operations. The primary intent is smaller rural residential development, and so that will comply as well with that, as there is no impediment on the adjacent or within this existing land base for agricultural uses and functions. As well, it should be noted, this is also without outside of the existing community areas and established hamlets and residential development. So in that case, it does technically go against it. However, considering the pre-existing redesignation, as well as the functionality of the parcel itself, realistically on its own, it's minimal in function for agricultural uses. So it's better intended as a residential in this case due to the size and capability of the lands for residential versus agricultural use. As well, the servicing standard requirements. It was previously through the redesignation application. It did a water well desktop study as well as a septic report to propose suitable septic and whether there is availability. Both of those documents are still applicable to this subdivision application, and they were peer reviewed previously and deemed sufficient in meeting all the provincial standards, and any future residential development on this parcel, if approved, would be able to provide for water and septic. As part of the circulation as well, Alberta Environment was circulated and they did not provide any comments or feedback for this application. So at this point, staff aren't recommending any environmental reserve easements or ER requirements, as no concerns from Alberta Environment were brought up or recommendations to provide that. Again, the property line is set back 30 meters, and with the setbacks required as per our land use bylaw for country residential, any development will be further than 30 meters with those setback requirements. As per the municipal development plan, I examined section 3.1, 3.6, and the servicing section 3.11. Overall, the application generally meets all these requirements. Again, the previous redesignation does allow for residential development, and because of the fragmentation due to the previous subdivision of Lot 1, Block 1, and the Burnett Lake, the parcel in itself has been naturally fragmented and more appropriate for residential development than agricultural as it was previously zoned. As per the land use bylaw, it is going to be examined as CR, country residential. At this point, there is no development currently on the property. However, any future development which is proposed as residential will require appropriate development permits. So at the time that they come in, they will need to be required to provide any supplementary information and ensure all setbacks and development requirements are met for that particular parcel. Access, again, for this one will be off of Township Road 244, and an approach would be required to provide access to that parcel. With regards to circulation, I circulated externally to adjacent landowners. I internally circulated to departments within the county, as well as agencies that may have interest in this property and the subdivision. ATCO Gas did request a right-of-way on the property for their infrastructure, and it was later confirmed before this application came to MPC that they have registered that right-of-way, and it's no longer an objection or concern by ATCO Gas. Other than that, no other concerns were brought forward from external agencies. Agricultural Services provided comment internally. They said at the development permit stage, as per land use bylaw 7.2, on a lot adjacent to a water body such as a river, creek, or lake, minimum setback of 100 feet from the top of bank is required. So again, and once development does come in, they will be required to meet those requirements. But I believe based off of the setbacks and the space available for development, that should be sufficient room to meet those standards. Transportation and Infrastructure requested a road widening easement and acquisition, as well as a new approach constructed to county standards. With that being said, MPC has two options. Option one is to approve SD 2018-022 with the conditions noted in Appendix A. And option two is to refuse the application SD 2018-002. Staff is recommending option one, approval, as the land is designated accordingly to country residential for future residential development, which is the primary intent of this application. Water and septic availability and suitability have been confirmed through peer-reviewed studies submitted by the applicant previously. The proposed subdivision will not impede or fragment agricultural land. The application meets the requirements of the SSRP, as well as the relevant goals and objectives of the RGMS, and as well as sections 3.1, 3.6, and 3.11 of the MDP have also been met according to the provided application. So with the conditions noted, based off of the comments received, deferred services agreement, an agreement for easement of construction and maintenance of public works, as well as a road acquisition agreement have also been conditioned as per transportation. The approach to the parcel, as well as the remnant, is also expected to be built and or upgraded accordingly to county standards through Public Works. Because this is not the first parcel out, this is the second, municipal reserve was required. And so based off of the final plan of survey, once that is submitted, if approved, the final cost will be calculated. However, at this time, we've received an approximate determination based off of tentative plan and the submitted appraisal report. Otherwise, the plan of survey is required, as well as all taxes to be paid once this is or given approval. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
Just a comment, comment for MPC. I think this is a good example how the decisions we make can tie hands of the board down the road, because yes, it's a very natural subdivision with the lake in there, but it's only natural because the subdivision previously has a lake in the middle of it. Wasn't a very smart subdivision at the time, I don't believe. So that's the only comment I have to make.
Go ahead, Glenn.
And I think I need another lesson in valuation of land. I think, and this is valued at $7,000 an acre, this 40 acres. I don't think I could buy it for $7,000 an acre.
Through the chair. So what we do is through the appraisal report, just a basic, I won't be able to go into too much detail, I'm not an appraiser, but how they've explained it to me is that they look at it as bare land market value for whether there's irrigation acres on it or not. There's a number of quantitative aspects of the land that they look at, and it does range. We've seen parcels valued at 16,000 versus, maybe 1,000 acres. So it really depends on what the current price is going for the areas around them, irrigation acres, as well as just previous purchases in the area. So there's a lot of items that come into this and make it varied quite widely across the county, going east and west. That's all I can really say about it without going into too much detail that I don't really know about, but that's how they've kind of generally explained it.
Thank you.
I know he's the expert, but I'm really questioning it this time. I don't know what the procedure is. I'm not happy with it, but I'm just one person here.
Any other questions, comments? Motion, sure.
I'll move that MPC approve subdivision application SD 2018-022 with the conditions noted in Appendix A of the planning report.
Any discussion on the motion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll move on to subdivision application file number SD 2018-023. The proposal is to subdivide plus or minus 15 acre parcel from the titled area.
Good morning again. So I'm going to be presenting SD 2018-023. The purpose of the application is to subdivide plus or minus 15 acres from the titled land northeast of 26, 24, 25, west of the 4th. The subject property is accessed from Range Road 251 and is directly adjacent to the town of Strathmore's north boundary. It's staff recommendation that MPC choose option 1 to approve the subdivision application SD 2018-023 with the conditions noted in Appendix A of the planning report. I'll just scooch down to the map for you so you can see where it is. So there's the proposed subdivision location there, just north of Strathmore, and the actual plan area. So, the intent of the application is to subdivide one plus or minus 15 acre parcel for estate planning purposes. The subdivision will contain an existing residential development and generally adheres to the established yard lines. As the parcel is larger than 5 acres, the landowner intends to continue having some agricultural uses on the property. Redesignation was not applied for. The proposed subdivision falls within the CMRB plan area. However, the subdivision does not require an amendment to a statutory plan and therefore did not require circulation to the board. The proposed subdivision generally aligns with the objectives and strategies of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan. As the proposed subdivision's boundaries are the established yard for an existing homestead, the impact of fragmentation of this agricultural land is minimal. There are no identified environmentally sensitive areas within the proposed subdivision, and as such, no contravention with those aspects of the SSRP. The proposed subdivision generally aligns with the county's regional growth management strategy. Though maps indicate this area has a high habitat suitability for species at risk, the proposed subdivision has an existing homestead development. The RGMS recommends a detailed wildlife habitat assessment being performed prior to new development occurring. It generally aligns with the agricultural section of the RGMS, though it is proposing to subdivide a portion of cultivated land out. The proposed parcel contains an existing development and is remaining zoned agricultural general. Therefore, the impact of fragmentation is minimal. The proposed subdivision aligns with the natural environment section of the RGMS, as there are no wetlands identified on this parcel, and the subdivision doesn't interfere with the WID canal. The proposed subdivision generally aligns with the community development section of the RGMS. If approved, one of the conditions of the subdivision will be to pay cash in lieu for the municipal reserve. It generally aligns with the county's municipal development plan. Section 3.1 agriculture objectives speak to minimizing the fragmentation of and effects on agricultural land. Though this subdivision is technically fragmenting land, it is subdividing an existing development, and the proposed parcel is remaining ag district. Thus, the impacts on fragmentation are minimal. For the land use bylaw, the proposed property is remaining agricultural general district, and so all future development will be required to align with the rules and regs of the ag district of the land use bylaw. And inside the package, I included the permitted and discretionary uses of the ag district. So the technical review, the proposed subdivision has an existing access. The remainder parcel does not. So if approved, the landowners would need to construct a new access to the remainder parcel, and their current access, both will need to meet Wheatland County's specifications, and would be a condition of subdivision approval. There is no pipe servicing to this property. The development is serviced by a private water well and a private tile field. And for the municipal reserve, it's required for the proposed subdivision, and Wheatland's policy is to take cash in lieu. So we engaged an assessor to appraise the market value of the property, and it was determined to be $7,000 an acre as of October 18th, 2018. Based on the proposed subdivision of plus or minus 15 acres, $10,500 will be required for MR cash in lieu. The final amount will be determined based on the final plan of survey submitted to the county. For circulation, the proposed subdivision was circulated to all landowners within a mile. No letters were received. External agencies, there were very few comments or objections, just the general ones from AHS in regards to water wells and septic. Strathmore had no concerns. Okay. So for this subdivision proposal, there are two options for MPC's consideration. That subdivision SD 2018-023 be approved with the conditions noted in Appendix A, based on the fact that the stated conditions of approval, the subdivision authority has determined that the proposed subdivision complies with the county's land use bylaw rules and regs and the MDP policies, and that the subdivision authority is satisfied that the proposed subdivision with the stated conditions is suitable for the purpose for which the subdivision is intended pursuant to Section 7 of the Subdivision and Development Regulations of the MGA, or that the subdivision application be refused. These are the conditions, the proposed conditions: that the subdivision be affected by plan of survey, that any outstanding taxes up to and including the year be paid, that 10% of the municipal reserve is required, that approaches be built up to county standards, that the owner is to register a deferred reserve caveat against the remnant parcel to ensure MR cash in lieu can be taken on future subdivisions, that the owner is to enter into a deferred services agreement, that they're to enter into an agreement for easement for construction and maintenance of any public works, and that they are to enter into a road acquisition agreement. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Glenn?
Sorry, it's still on.
Oh, it's okay.
Number 6 of the conditions, number 5, I guess, number 5. The deferred reserve caveat. Is that on the remaining parcel? Is that on both parcels?
That will be on the remaining parcel. As we will be taking municipal reserve on the proposed subdivision, we can't take more municipal reserve off that parcel.
So the proposed subdivision, we take reserve on it, and that gets subdivided again, there's no more reserve to be taken on that parcel.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's 15 acres. They could divide that down to at least 3 more parcels, and there'd be no reserve. And the parcel be worth considerably more than the parent. Right? I'm guessing. So I'm wondering if it's smart to take, we don't have to take reserve?
From what I understand, we can't take more municipal reserve when we've already taken municipal reserve.
That's right. So if we don't take any and it gets subdivided again, we can take reserve. Right? So I would, and it's still only $7,000. I would be more in favor of not taking any reserve at this time.
So you're looking at number 5 then, the deferred reserve, take it at a later date, or reserve right?
No reserve on that.
Okay.
Because it's just the parent parcel that you can defer it on.
Okay.
I think 15 acres has a high potential on the Strathmore border to be further subdivided. I can see cutting it at half tomorrow. Not that I have a problem with it, but I like to be fair.
So, Mr. Chair, that's correct. You can only take municipal reserve once on a parcel. So if we take it now, we can no longer get that municipal reserve on that 15 acres. So the zoomed in picture is on the screen, so you can see foreseeably it could get subdivided in half again. probably without a problem, maybe into a third.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get subdivided again, there's no option to take it? Not until it does? Okay, just for clarification. Other question I had, my hairs in the back of my neck stood up when I heard species at risk. Just wondering if there's an identified species in that area, because I can't for the life of me see that, but.
Burrowing owl.
Specific, if there's an identified risk species that's there, that's what I'm asking, because I don't.
Conservative politician.
If someone brought up an actual burrowing owl or something that I don't see, I just.
Don't think I'm gonna divert any.
I just, when I hear that, knowing what I've heard in other areas of the province, it's concerning to me, because if that's the road we're going down.
You just shoot trouble and shut up, isn't that what clients say?
I just want to know if someone identified something specific. Well, it's the first time I've ever heard that in anything that we've done, so. Sorry.
It's okay. Well, Megan's investigating that. I just have, because I'm still trying to understand the assessment as well. Will smaller subdivisions affect that municipal reserve? Because it looks like it doesn't take into account the size of the subdivision when it's doing it. And correct me if I'm wrong, staff, but like I see what you're saying on that the actual subdivision, like the lots will be worth more, but it doesn't necessarily appear that they take that into account as a factor when they're assessing the value per acre. I don't know if staff can speak to that. I'm just trying to clarify with the municipal reserve on the assessment. It doesn't look like they necessarily, when they're assessing the value of the land per acre, that they necessarily take into account the size of the subdivision. Because I see what Glenn is saying, like the smaller the subdivision, obviously, like the more per acre people are paying for that subdivision generally. But it doesn't look like the assessor necessarily takes that, or the appraiser takes that into account when doing the appraisal per acre. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does, yes. I don't really feel comfortable speaking to it. I don't know enough about appraising. All I know is that they take it at base value as if there's no development on the land, and generally for ag use is the evaluation that they do.
Don't they, when they do the assessment, they have to assess it for what it is today, not what it is down the road?
This is not assessment, this is an appraisal,
An
two different
appraisal,
things.
but even that,
Two
your
different
appraisal is for what it is today, not for what it is 10 years from now.
That's correct. So what I was going to suggest after the meeting is we can have the appraiser come in and speak with council about that, on how the appraisals are done. I think would be a more appropriate place than the MPC to discuss that. We're not appraisers, so.
Go ahead, Don.
Well, through the chair, I have a comment, and it's nothing to do with other than under the key issues and under the background in the planning report, it states in there that it's an application to subdivide one 15-plus acre parcel for estate planning purposes, and it says that in both documents, which means once it's in there, then we look at that as an estate planning. We're not supposed to look at estate planning issues at all. That's not what we're here for. We look at it if it meets our bylaws and our MPC. So I just assume, if I don't care what the reason for doing it is, my only concern is that it meets our bylaws. So to me, when I read this and it says in there for estate planning purposes, now it tells me that I have to use that as part of my decision when I'm making a decision on the parcel, and I don't want to see that in there.
Yeah, we'll make sure we remove that from future because that has no bearing on the planning
That's right.
merits of it, for sure.
Okay. Any other discussion? Have you got any information for species at risk or anything? Okay. So do we have a department or staff member that identifies these areas? one of those days. Okay, I'll make the motion then, that subdivision application, SD 2018-23 be approved with the conditions noted. And I'm not really sure where I sit on that number 5 condition. I'm not entirely understanding if it's a benefit to defer it or for now. I'm open to discussion on that.
Say we subdivide it. We build a road there. We gonna get road widening for $7,000 an acre? Ask our Public Works, I don't think we will. Because the parcel itself has an inherent value, the way I see it. 3 acres, $100,000. I agree with Alan, sorry.
No worries.
We're not experts in evaluation. I'm just going off of a feeling in my gut. We should be having, I'm in no way qualified to give you my views. I can just give me my view as a gut feeling, but we should get an appraiser in here, and we have 2 today that I think are borderline, for me anyway, but maybe I'm out to lunch too. It's quite possible.
Just a comment on the egg fragmentation side, which is a bad word right now because we don't know what it means. But we have a parcel of, I'd say, close to 130 acres? 120. And we're going to subdivide 15 off. To me, we're losing those larger pieces of land, and just because there's a dwelling on it doesn't mean it's suitable for subdivision, in my opinion. I mean, you look at that Range Road 251, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and if we go ahead with this subdivision, 8 landowners on that parcel, including WID. Excluding WID, sorry, so that's 9. And that road is going to have a lot of wear and tear. And are we creating ourselves more cost by allowing all these subdivisions in these areas? Your car count on that road will increase. I mean, especially if they subdivide this proposed subdivision, if it goes through, and then still build a house on your greater than 100-acre piece without coming to us. They can put 2 houses on that piece. So you could have 12 houses on half a mile road, which I just think is going to have a lot of cost towards the county, and there's no way to get that back.
A question, through the chair, question for Alan, with that number 5. If they put a deferred caveat against the remnant parcel, in the future, if that's subdivided, you can take MR off the subdivided parcel. But isn't the MR taken at that time as when they do an assessment of the value of the property at that time? It isn't taken on the value it's assessed today.
Would be at the time of when we took the MR, the appraised value.
Of today.
Yeah, appraisal and assessment are 2 different things.
So
They're
if
not always the same.
Yeah, so if they subdivide that 3 times, just as an example, 3 times in the next 10 years, it's still only based on the $7,000 an acre.
Oh, it'll be at time of appraisal.
At the time of the subdivision.
For the remnant.
For the future.
That's correct.
So.
That's correct.
Isn't that what we want? They're going to pay.
But I think what Deputy Reeve Kester is, or Councillor Kester is saying, that don't take the MR now. We don't need to take it now. And in the future, if they subdivide that 15 acres into 2 7.5-acre parcels or 3 5-acre parcels, take it then, because the inherent value will be increased. I think that's what he's suggesting.
But that's what I'm trying to understand is if we take it now, you can't take it in the future.
The 15-acre parcel, that's correct. You can only take it once. So we take it now
Oh,
at 7,000, or we,
Okay, so if it's it's not the 15-acre parcel, it's the rest of it, it can be, but not the
that's
15.
caveated the rest of it, yes. And the difference between the appraisal and the assessed value is the appraisal is based on the appraiser's assessment of what that's worth, $7,000 in this case. The assessed value is regulated for farmland at 450, 350, I can't remember what the number. So that's the difference between appraised and assessed value.
Okay. With that explanation, then I would take number 5 at your suggestion and defer it for later. No? Number 3? Oh, the MR, sorry. And as my motion, I would remove number 3 for future. Yeah. Any discussion? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to understand this. If they subdivide it, and let's say it's seven acres, right now we're getting 15 acres at 7,000. It has to be appraised at more than 14,000 when they do subdivide it next in order for us to get the same amount of money. Am I right? No?
No.
I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
No, the appraisal in the future will be what the appraisal is. So if it's 7,000, then it would end up being the same, exactly the same amount. If it ends up being 8,000, it would be a little bit more. But that's not, I don't think that's what Member Kester's getting at. He's getting at the point where the inherent value right now is probably less than it will be in the future. And the potential that it's a 15-acre parcel, it can be re-subdivided again, potentially.
So,
Go ahead, Tom.
to administration, can we, and I agree with what Councillor Kester is saying here, because can we change what a piece of property is appraised at according to basic what, because a 3-acre piece of parcel is worth more than a quarter section piece of parcel. It's just in like I can get 150,000 for a 3-acre parcel, and I can get $7,000 an acre for, so $1 million for a quarter section. Can we not, is there no way that we can show that in our, when we do appraisals, that as soon as you start doing a subdivision, something smaller becomes more valued?
The simple answer to that is no, you're not an appraiser. So you have to be certified through the Appraisal Association in Alberta. So that's why my suggestion would be in a future meeting to have the appraiser, this particular appraiser, come and speak directly to council in some form so that you understand the appraisal process. We're not appraisers, so we can't speak to that. Similar to what we do with the assessor that we have on staff, he has to follow certain guidelines and rules set out by the province. So, and then hopefully he can shed some light on this, perhaps, maybe not.
Okay, so is everybody clear on the motion then? And everybody understand the way it is? Remove 3.
If
Go
I
ahead.
make a suggestion, if we are to remove 3, a condition should be put in that a deferred reserve caveat be put on the subdivided parcel as well.
So I think what Megan's saying is condition number 5 has to change as well then. And it would say rather than the owner is registered a deferred caveat against the remnant parcel, it would be, there'd be a registered caveat against the entire parcel. The subdivided parcel and the remnant, yes. Both parcels. Yeah, the subdivided parcel and the remnant parcel. So just if we add that wording in point number 5, I think it would accomplish the same thing.
Okay, however we get to the end of it, that's fine. Unless anybody wants it read or written properly so we understand what we're doing? Everybody's understood? Okay, motion on the floor. I will call the motion. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Anything else? If not, I'll call for an adjournment. Anybody?
I'll move.
Tom moves. All in favor? Thank you all.